Welcome to Fatso Radio, everybody. How you doing? This is episode number 110, and welcome again. If this is your first time listening to Fatso Radio or watching Fatso Radio, welcome, and it's my pleasure to come to you every single Friday. And that's what I do. Every single Friday, come to you and talk to you about the diet, the lifestyle, the idea that fat is not the enemy, the idea that animal fat, dietary fat is not the animal, or not the enemy, rather. I lost a bunch of weight doing it, and I'm getting my health in better shape every single day, in better and better shape every single day by doing it. But not every episode is about that. Fatso Radio is a place where I just want to think of things in a different way, or hopefully give us an opportunity to think of things in a different way, a different perspective, bounce ideas around. But tonight is no different. Tonight, I have a repeat guest, so Vince Paluzzi. Please welcome Vince Paluzzi to episode number 110. Vince is second time on the podcast. I've chatted with Vince about a year ago, episode 60-something. Can't remember right off the top of my head, but I've known Vince for a long time, and we had an awesome discussion last year. Discussions about work, about life, about love, about ayahuasca, about many different things. And tonight, no different. We continue right on where we left off. Talk about life, talk about passions and love, and our careers, and what we're going to do going forward. And that's what we're talking about tonight with Vince. So please put your hands together and welcome Vince back to Fatso Radio. Also, don't forget to check out Fatso Radio's the sponsor, rather. I couldn't put that out. The sponsor, our sponsor every single day, every single month, every single year, lifelong sponsor, Volpe Martial Arts, volpemartialarts.com. My brother, Adam Volpe, brings you his lifelong passion, brings it right to you. Check it out, volpemartialarts.com. All right, Lily, let's do it. Take it away. Episode number 110. I love you all. Peace. Fatso Radio.
Fatso, the really great podcast show.
Fatso, our very first podcast show. Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio. This episode, another special guest of mine, longtime friend, Vince Paluzzi. Welcome back, Vince.
Hi buddy, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, man. Great. And welcome back to Fatso Radio, everybody. This is episode number 110. And if you've been joining us all along, thank you so much for your patience. And thank you so much for joining the love and spreading the love. And if you're new to Fatso Radio, don't worry about it. We're welcome everybody. And a little bit later on, actually, I think me and Vince will get into maybe a little bit of our name as well, because we had a conversation earlier on the day earlier on the week, rather, that it really got me thinking, and things I want to share with people. So, Vince, let's get into it. The last time we talked was almost a year ago, actually. It was like April last year. And what was going on just at the beginning of COVID, just at the beginning of all this stuff that's going on. But at the same time, you were going through some huge changes. So things like you had an awesome experience with ayahuasca, and then you came back and you're going through some big changes as far as switching jobs and everything. So let's kind of get a quick update, but let's get right back into it. Welcome, my brother.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, when we did the last podcast, it was actually pre-COVID for me. Went to Mexico, did ayahuasca. I don't even think there was rumblings there was a little bit of talk about COVID, but we were able to travel, no problem, all things like that. And then once we came home, I think it was about maybe a week later, then it started getting pretty heavy. But like with COVID being a terrible thing, like for me, I was able to have that time to really reflect. And obviously I had gone in, quit my job, but it was like a lot of family time, and basically the world stopped, right, as we knew it. And it was just, for me, outside of the the tragedies of people dying and things like that, like on a personal level, it was just time to really reflect. And I was able to use that to just keep the momentum going from when I came back. We had talked about, struggled for a long time, and wasn't open about it, and, kept it kind of in the house and things like that. And then once I was able to, ayahuasca really showed me the path that I need to get on. Obviously, came home, quit my job, started studying real estate, which was a passion of mine for 20 years. To be 100% honest, I just didn't have the cojones to just quit a job at Oklahoma Steel and go to a job that technically pays zero money. Like, it's all commission based. I've never had a commission based job in my life, and still, I'll be getting my license here probably next week. And so is there a little bit of anxiety over it? 100%. I'm not going to lie about it. Am I excited? Very excited to be doing something that I chose to do. Technically no boss. That'll be the first time in my life where I'm my own boss, you know. Getting up not at 4:10 in the morning type thing, no more night shifts. So for me, it's I'm anxious and excited all in one. And a little bit of the fear of the unknown, right? Like I don't know what I don't know. I believe I know stuff about real estate. I know how to treat people. I know how to apply my knowledge that I've now learned to these situations. But just that the commission based is a little bit new to me.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, so what's the, I mean, if you don't mind getting into it, but what's the process? I mean, there's definitely a lot of lengthy studying. I know a few people have kind of gone through the ropes, you know, to get the, you know, to become a real estate agent, but you know, there's obviously some studying, some exams I imagine you have to take as well, right?
Yeah,
how long is it? How long could it take? I mean, as long as
it could take somebody. Honestly, it took me, I'm going to say 10 months.
Okay.
That's a little bit on the longer side.
Oh.
Somebody can theoretically do this in 4 months if they wanted to really cram. The thing that's different with COVID, so Humber College took over real estate now. It used to be done through Aurea, and Humber took over. So I was I believe one of the first classes to start there.
Okay.
And so the curriculum is, I'm not going to say it's hard, but there's a lot of information. Like I was surprised, and I'm 46 years old, haven't been in school.
Yeah.
Like when my mentor, Cindy Parniak, that's who I'll kind of be working under at Exit Realty when I start. An absolutely phenomenal lady that is one of my best friends as well. So I got really, really lucky. We tell each other we love each other, and that's who my mentor is. Like I really scored big time on that.
Nice.
But she said, well, before you start, here, I'll give you a couple books. And now it's done mostly online. You can't even get a book.
Okay.
But she gave me the book, and it had to be, I'm going to guess somewhere between 400 and 500 pages. And I'm saying, oh, this is like the whole course. And she said, no, that's one course. There's 4 courses that you have to take of that material. So
Welcome to school, man.
yeah, like I was a little bit shocked is the word at like I have a whole new respect for real estate agents now for the time that they've put in, because I knew you know, once you start working, you definitely get a rhythm going, and you build off the momentum, and you treat your clients right, and you get referrals. That's how this business works, right? I didn't realize the back end, because I'm watching the shows on television. I'm paying attention to the MLS listings, even when I wasn't even thinking about real estate, just because I was always interested in it.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know the back end, and like the exams I ended up doing really, really well. And I think the part that got me was 75% is the passing mark, not 50.
Yeah.
So the room for error there, in my mind, was like there's not very much.
Yeah.
And if you fail one, thankfully I didn't, but if you do fail one, it's not a problem. You can write it again. But because of COVID measures and everything, they had a proctoring system. So basically I could write this same room that I'm sitting in. This is where I used to write my exams, where normally you would go to Sault College or something like that, where somebody could monitor you. But because of that was all closed, I was able to write them in this office, which is great. But if you did fail one, you're looking at anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks to rewrite, because the proctoring system they use, it was a company out of the States, and they're just overwhelmed. So it would be a long time before you can rewrite that test. Me being the guy that I am, I would put enormous amounts of pressure on myself to never fail that test. So it was constantly like a month and a half of studying, and then just kind of being really hard on myself. Like when I was going into exams, and my wife can attest to this, like I was like on edge, like if somebody was going into these exams just, you know, cool, calm, and collected. God bless him, because that wasn't me at all. But and then when I'd write the test, it was weird because I'd go downstairs, or my wife would come back from work and she'd say, "How did you do?" And I was never this guy where, like, if I did something well, I knew I did it well, and I would be like, "I'm not sure what I got, but I passed." But it just seemed like everyone was. I think I was doubting myself. I think I just have a lot more self-doubt now than I did maybe when I was in college or high school. And then I would get my mark and she'd be like, "I can't believe you just worried about this." You know what I mean? Like, she'd say, "What did you get?" And I'd be like, I didn't even want to tell. Like the last one I was concerned with, and she's like, "Let's just relax and wait." So I waited up. Usually you get your mark at 12:18 at night, which is very bizarre, but that's what they do. So I wait for this one. It was my last one. There would be no more exams. You had to, the next day you'd have to just read through a little bit of material, but that was all you had to do. So I waited. I had a nap, waited up till I set my alarm for 12 o'clock, got up, went to the computer. It wasn't doing it right away. Update, 94. And I'm like, okay, that's amazing. But when my wife asked me, "What did you get?" Because I was just down, and I said, I'm going to get it here.
Yeah.
So it was funny because when she asked, I was just like, "Oh God." Like,
well, maybe that means how much you cared about it, right? You were worried, right? You for sure. I get it.
100%. But yeah, so it's a lot of work, but for me, it wasn't hard. Now, somebody coming in, like I consider myself having a little bit of a background in real estate because I always was reading up on it, watched all the shows on television. Like there's a New York show, an LA show, watching all that stuff. So you pick up tidbits. It's not the actual laws and things like that, but everybody's got to learn those for the first time. But yeah, it was interesting, but it was quite detailed.
Wow, nice. And so, like I said, now basically you're waiting maybe another week or so, or even within next week, and then once you get your license, essentially, can you just start? Is that it, or?
100%. Like I've already got 2 guys waiting, and the day I get my license, we could start going to see houses. The day I get my license, hopefully in the near future, there I'll find listings where I could list a house. So yeah, the thing is, I'll have to write 2 tests in the next 2 years. It's part of the post-registration, they call it. Pre-registration is schooling. Okay. And then post-registration, I'm going to have to take 2 classes. I believe it's out of 5 you can pick. Okay. And some of them are like waterfront. There's a couple more commercial ones that you can choose. So they give you a little bit of flexibility there, and you just have to complete those in the next 2 years. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, hopefully make some money and get some clients, get some referrals, all that kind of stuff, and then probably next winter, like January, February, knock those out, and away we go.
So what a change then. I mean, you're making steel last year. No.
Yeah.
A year ago? What was your job when you were in the steel industry?
The last one I had, I was taking the sulfur out of iron. Okay. So like we had discussed it, it was one of the better jobs in Oklahoma Steel, one of the better paying jobs. Yeah. There wasn't much physical labor involved. Okay. So it was one of those jobs where you get it and you retire from. And like we talked about, I was still miserable. And that's when I knew there was nothing in Oklahoma Steel for me that's ever going to make me even feel okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I probably would have settled with okay. And even saying that now in this position makes me a little sad, but I probably would have been okay with it and retired and did what I had to do. But it was just like every shift I was just, and I put on a great show. Like some days I was miserable, but like I tried to, like, I didn't try and bring anybody else down because it's a little bit of a team atmosphere there. Yeah. So you put on a show, but inside I was just like, man, this is not for me.
So it's so much different then. Like you said, you're on your own now, essentially. You're in the public, which is great. And I mean, I like to see it. It's funny because when I hear about somebody who's doing either a job like yours or any job that's very different, right? It's like, you see, people are people. You know what I mean? People persons are like, because it is about connection. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like when I see people getting into that type of business or that type of a line of work where they really do need to connect with people. And I see someone like you, who I think that I love the way you connect with people, the way me and you connect with other people. And I think that it's going to win. I mean, sure, it takes you a while to learn the job. There's a learning curve, you study, you learn, you have a mentor, like you said. But I think that it's something where that connection means a lot to you. And I mean, what do you think? Does that make sense? Yeah.
The way I look at it, because I wanted to do this, like I said, for a long time, I don't believe I was getting into it for the right reasons. You know how they say everything happens for a reason?
Okay.
That didn't happen for the reason that I might have been getting into this for the wrong reasons. Now I'm getting into it. Everybody wants to make money, and I get that. And for me to say I don't care about the money would be a flat out lie, but it's not as big a priority to me. Like it's now about connecting with people. And the thing is, I'm going to learn a lot of stories along the way. You know what I mean? Like whether it be a divorce, whether it be breakups along that nature, where I feel like I'll also be able to connect with these people and just be honest with them. Like, I don't know how to say this politically. Like, I'll put it this way. This is a real life story that just happened the other day. Somebody from our high school that but he'll remain nameless.
Okay.
Somebody had said, "Oh, there's my new real estate agent," and a guy beside him who you would also know. This was in Canadian Tire. He said, "Oh yeah, we've got another guy who's going to bullshit," and that does, like, that little bit of a stigma is attached to the real estate market. It's not everybody, but it's the few bad apples that bring the rest down. Thankfully, I've aligned myself with somebody who's not one of those people in Cindy, and I'm not going about it that way. Like it's different this time. Like I'm just going to be honest, and sometimes the truth does hurt.
Oh, yeah.
But as long as I'm truthful, I never have to worry about what I said before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in a year, if something comes up or anything like that, I was always truthful.
Yeah.
And is that going to get me in certain situations? Probably, but like that's just the way I'm going to approach this. It's a no BS policy, and there's always things where there'd be a little bit of a give and take, and that's fine. Sure. It's just, and I looked at that situation, and that's one of the things I want to change. And I want to be able to put that honesty, that knowledge, that integrity. But there is a lot of stuff that goes on that's that people say that for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's sad, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And like you said, and the way I look at it too is that if you're an honest person in any line of work, you're going to be an honest person in this line of work too. And I really do believe it comes out. I think when a lot of people will say, dishonesty, they say that about a lot of sales jobs in general, right? I did some sales years ago in tech business, the software business, and I think people have that impression with sales in general until they really get to know what a salesperson's job is, right? The truth is that you can be a salesperson who's 100% truthful. That's fine. There's a way to work every aspect of every product, of every service in a truthful way and honestly, hey, maybe this is not for you, but I have another service or another product or whatever, right? So one of the things about selling is like there's a lot of different tools in your toolbook, and for the person who doesn't have any experience with sales, a lot of it looks just like bullshit. And it's not. It's creative selling, right? It's being resourceful. It's using your knowledge and pivoting. And so yeah, I can see that a lot. And people say, "Oh, I'm not a bullshit artist." Or the other thing I'm hearing sometimes is, "Oh, he's getting into business. Great time to get in." Well, yeah, it's still a hard friggin' business. Just because houses are being sold for $1 million, it doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, it may be arguably that it's harder now because of that. There's more competition, there's more real estate agents, right? So the other thing I wanted to say ask was, with COVID, people are still selling houses, right? It's amazing. It's a little bit different, I guess. Maybe not as many showings and stuff like that. Maybe more virtual tours and stuff like that. Is that something you kind of have to prepare for now?
Yes. As long as the proper protocols are in place, you can still do the showings. But honestly, the market, and I'll just speak for Sault Ste. Marie because it's what I know, is absolutely bonkers. Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
And they're saying it's a mix of things, but what's happening is a lot of people from down south are moving back home.
Yeah.
And what's also happening in that market, because I do believe they're selling their house for a huge profit, right? If they've had it for a while, things like that. And you're able to still get a beautiful home in Sault Ste. Marie from anywhere from 300 to 800,000.
Mhm.
So a lot of them may be upgrading their house, but also pocketing, let's say, anywhere between 250 to $1 million, and moving back to the Sioux, and supposedly a lot of them are just going to work from home.
Yeah.
And that's driving the market. Supposedly up north, they're finding more minerals. One of those being gold.
Wow.
That's driving the market as well. That still hasn't come into full effect yet, but that's lingering in the back. But like we're seeing houses with 25,000 over ask, 35,000 over ask, full cash offer. Like this stuff just happened. Like the shows I watched on New York and LA, they love that. Like they don't like mortgage properties, because that didn't happen in Sault Ste. Marie. Like there was always a financing condition and all that kind of stuff. People are coming in with full price offers. It's so, like how you said, it's a great time to get in the market. If you're listing a house, 100%.
Yeah.
If you're trying to compete, like say I have a couple buyers or one buyer that is trying to put a bid on a house, it's a little tougher. Because there's a lot of competition. Like houses are getting 10, 15 offers. Well, when that happens, they call it a bidding war, and usually the highest offer will prevail, or the one with the least amount of conditions. That's the other thing that's happening in Sioux. No condition offers. And a lot of these people, it's sight unseen. They may have went around with their real estate agent with their phone. And I know a couple houses that's happened, and they've bought it and never stepped into it. The first time they'll step into it is the day that they move here, which is crazy. And I imagine this has been happening in the bigger cities, like say Barrie, Toronto. Maybe that's how you had to do it. But for Sault Ste. Marie, it's incredible.
It's wild. We're even seeing that here. The idea that, because people are trying to get out of Toronto, same thing you're saying, right? And I think almost like their first thought might be Waterloo, Toronto, Kitchener area, then London area, and then you're right, going way up north, because as the further you go, the property's going to be cheaper, obviously, or for the most part, not always. But in smaller cities. But yeah, we're seeing houses going up like 100,000 over asking, and they're overpriced 400,000 to begin with. I'm like, what's going on here? A house that in any city would normally cost 200,000 or 300,000 is going for $1 million. What's going on? But at the same time, it's very, I wouldn't say deceiving, but it's very misleading at times to people, because they think, well, great time to sell their house. So sure, when they're buying another house for $1 million. So good time to downsize, good time to just move your situation, right? Because people's situation is changing. And I imagine from the perspective of being a retailer or a realtor, even if a city's not growing necessarily, during massive transitions like going on now, people are coming from Toronto, they need to buy houses, they need to rent, they need to cottages and everything, right? So this definitely we'll see a lot of movement, I'm sure. And then, like you said, with the whole remote thing, most of my friends here in Waterloo region are now working remote, my wife included, are now working remote. And the people in Toronto, and I think they're saying, why the heck am I in Toronto? I'm working remote, right?
And I think with COVID, I think you're going to see a lot of companies say, okay, we may not totally make everybody work from home, but we're doing this. So why do we need this huge office? Like, let's say the lottery building on Bay Street, they may be looking at it saying, why do we have this monster? They may need some office space, but not that big of an office, right? Yeah. They're realizing, I think it took something like this for companies to trust that they could still do this with everybody working at home.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part is, like, my brother in particular does not like working at home at all. Some people love it. It seems like some people love it, yeah, or you hate it. I haven't really met anybody that's in the center there that says, it's not bad. Like his wife loved it. Him, it's not so much. So, and he's even got to drive in about 35 minutes from Haviland every day. And he says, I just want to start driving back in town. Like a lot of people do not like it.
Well, yeah, for a lot of people, you get their peace and quiet, or you're able to focus, and even if you have no distractions, it's a different setting, right? You're kind of like, they got the work helmet on, and you got the home helmet on for a lot of people, and even from some other people too. The socialization that we used to get in the office, or we used to get in the factory, or wherever you worked, especially the offices, that socialization is kind of gone now. And even when I was still working at tech company I was working on during COVID, for the first couple months. We still have, weekly meetings and things like that, but it's not the same. Your neighbor is no longer your neighbor anymore. They could very well be in Singapore, because it doesn't matter. So yeah, it's definitely something that I think we're gonna have to kind of adjust with. But like you said, what's the need for 3,000 people or more? Just the millions of people being jammed in a city center like Toronto. So I wonder what's going to happen to the cities.
Especially government, right? Because government's always trying to, lower their tab, lower what they're paying, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not sure. Like it does. I believe it breaks that cohesiveness though of a team. Like not being, you can do your Zoom meetings, you can do all that kind of stuff. Like even here, like if me and you were in the same room, the energy would be different than what it is right now.
First of all, and then,
And so I think companies may not want that, but government, things like that, I think we're going to see more and more of the downscaling and making them work from home.
Yeah. And like you said too, I mean, with the COVID and everything, maybe we can kind of switch gears. But how have you kind of been handling COVID otherwise, or how staying healthy? I mean, imagine you're staying healthy. You look healthy, so
thank you.
How have you been keeping that up?
The diet is not where it should be. But other than the lockdowns for working out, I try and go 5-6 times a week. That was tough. This last one was, I believe 6 weeks.
Okay.
So you kind of make lemonade out of lemons. Me and my son started working out in the basement. I'm not a guy who would ever make a home gym, all that kind of stuff, because I know that I just won't use it. My laundry will hang off it, that kind of stuff. But he's starting to get into it. And so that was awesome. But I still like going to the gym. Like it sets my day. Like when I'm having a bad day, I'll go to the gym sooner because I know getting that stuff out just works. Like when I used to struggle before, the gym was the last thing on my mind, right? Like I just couldn't go. And that's where part of the problem was. I don't know if it's to get that testosterone going. I don't know what it is. It just really, really helps me. And I feel like when people ask me, like people reach out because they're seeing a little at the transformation of me, right? Like I don't really push it on people. I would never do that. But if people reach out 100%, and it could be just starting with a walk, and it could be 15 minutes because it's usually like, my knees. I'm not saying you have to go, get a membership and do all that stuff. I said, just get out for as long as you can. And it may be 15-minute walk and you'll build off that. Like even with my running, like I've never ran in my life, but the gym's closed. Something inside me just said, start running.
Wow.
And, I was just like, oh, like I've got made fun of the way I run. Like I'm slow, like but I said, okay, it was almost like a challenge, right? Whether it be from the universe, whether it be inside me, it's probably all of the above. And I said, okay, you want me to run? I'll run. And I'm also like the one habit I can't kick yet is the smoking, but I've got that down. But like, a smoker that jogs doesn't really happen that often, but you want me to jog, I'll jog. So the first one was, I'm going to get something like 1.5K, something like that. Total struggle. But then I just kept going. And then, I might get a little bit wrong, but like 2 weeks, it was 2.5. Wow. 3 weeks, it was 3. And then all of a sudden it was going. And then I was doing 5. Wow. And then one day I did 8. And like, to some people, they're probably like, and I put it on Facebook because I was proud of it. And like, sure. I was thinking like a year ago, like I could barely get off the couch. And now I'm jogging 8 kilometers for a guy like I never ran before in my life. And I was just like stoked. So then the one mistake I made though, one day I woke up and I felt good, like real good. And I said, you know what? I'm going 10. So I just started running down Queen Street. I live just off of Queen Street. I just said, I'm going to start running down Queen Street. I'm going to run 5K. And then I know to come home is 5K. And I always kept a monitor and stuff to see what I was doing. I like updates on how I was running, times and stuff like that. Ran 5K. ran back, and I was at about Bellevue Park, which was about, I think 7.5K, and just felt really good. So I went through Bellevue Park. Next thing I know, I did 15K.
Holy shit.
And I was like, and at that point,
Wow.
at around the 13K part, like I could feel my knees, everything, like things were getting like a little wonky. And I'm like, okay, I want to hit that 15 for just a personal mark of mine.
Yeah.
But this is getting a little bit scary because like it was like I'm breaking down here.
If the wheels are gonna
I
fall
made it. I made it home, and so my wife goes, "Good run." I said, "Yeah, I just did 15K," and just the look on her face, and she's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like,
That's awesome.
I showed her. I said, "Just did 15K," and it took me an hour. I think an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. She goes, I can't even wrap my mind around this because one of the great things that happened here, she was usually the leader in things, like because when you're struggling and things like that, and she struggles too, but she has these tools that now I implement, but I just couldn't implement them. But one day she told me, and it still brings a tear to my eyes, because I started running, and then she started running, and she came home one day from a run, and I had been out earlier, and she said the feeling of me following in your footsteps brought tears to my eyes, and I was just like,
Man.
okay,
That's
that's
good,
like
man.
that.
That's nice.
And I just got the imagery of it, right? And that was like one of the first times where, like, self-love, mental health, that kind of stuff, where I was cheering her on, and I was the person in front and pioneer and stuff. But that 15, I couldn't run for another. I'm still feeling the effects. Like
Wow.
like I went too far, because when I was doing the fives,
Yeah.
I would run every day.
Okay.
And I did overshoot it. So if I have one thing to say to anybody, is just build up. Like I went from basically, I hit that 8, I went back down to 5, and then I just did that 15 one day, and it's not recommended. So I just started again. Yeah. So I'm back to, if I had to guess, I don't even use the tracker anymore, because now I'm just running.
Yeah.
So maybe 2.5, 3, and I'll go for a run, and I'll take a couple days off.
Yeah.
So there's something going on with the knees, probably 46-year-old knees. That's probably what it is.
Doing the 15K, especially on all of a sudden, yeah, definitely building up.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. I mean, the idea that like you never ran when you were a kid. Did you run? No. I mean, like I said, I didn't run. The value of the challenge, like you said, that personal challenge that we do for ourselves. Sometimes I've called them little gimmicks or whatever they are, monthly challenge, but I can't say how valuable those are, because they're little milestones, little pegs you get to knock off on your list. They don't mean anything, but they mean something, because they're how we progress. Because if we don't challenge ourselves, well, how are we gonna exceed that challenge or meet that challenge or set a goal? How are we gonna hit it, right?
Like I say, they don't mean anything, but they mean everything. Like it's not. I'm not going to brag, like, but I was so proud of that 15. Like I was proud of that 15, and just for me to say I'm proud of things, like when I made that post, when I had finished my last exam, and me and my wife went shopping for clothes, because I needed that, because I was a steel worker. I didn't have a lot of dress clothes and all that kind of stuff, right? So, taking the picture in front of the fireplace and all this kind of stuff, just me saying that I'm proud of myself. It by no means am I bragging.
No, exactly. It feels weird to say, right? I know.
But to say that, you know what I mean? Like, I still don't love myself. I can't wait for that. I'm working on it a lot. And people find that, you find that corny, you find that error, that don't bother me either, because a lot of people struggle with that. And that's one of the biggest struggles. They can't even look at themselves in the mirror. I could never look myself in the mirror. I could look at myself in the mirror, I bet you, for 1 second, like to really look, like I could look in the mirror and see, how my clothes were and stuff, but to really look in a mirror and look directly back into your eyes, I couldn't do it. And I would always cower, put my eyes down and stuff. I'm able to, at times, even tell myself that I love you. Those things are just showing my growth.
Yeah.
And that little boy inside, I talk to him, because I've got that's where part of my problem is, certain things, and getting to know him, comforting him, and just looking at myself and telling yourself that you love you. that you love you is so important, and you're breaking down barriers of yourself when you're able to start doing that. And do I fully love myself? No, I can't wait for that day, because that's going to be a huge step. Like, I'm making big steps, but like, this takes time. Like, I broke myself down for 45 years, right? So to think that I'm going to do this in a year, or someone think I'm going to do this in 2 months, no way. Like, this, I'm a big onion, right? And I've got to peel back a lot of layers. And am I doing that? 100%. And do sometimes I'm taking that step back. But that step back used to result in, coach time, bed with the lights, all that kind of stuff. Now it's a step back. And sometimes, do I just want to call it a day? And do I call it a day? 100%. And but the next day when I wake up, I wake up with purpose and go. Like, I can't afford to make one bad day turn into 3 bad days, to turn into a week, to turn into 3 months, because I'm not going back to that. It's very easy and I can only speak personally, it's very easy for me to do that. And it's still there. Like, in my demons, let's call it, they're still there. Like, you can put them in their cage, but they're not going anywhere. I had one guy when I went to ayahuasca last time, just a brilliant man. He's a therapist as well. He told me he goes through a ceremony and talks to them and befriends them. And at the time, this was really early into my last time I went, and sounded a little corny again, but I get it, because I didn't even realize why or how these demons exist. And when I say demons, I don't mean alcohol. I don't mean drugs. Those could be people's demons. Never really demons of mine. But it could be anything: childhood trauma that you've experienced along the way. It could be a car accident that you still haven't gotten over. Like, trauma, when you say trauma to people, they automatically go to molestation, rape, and those are all trauma. But trauma could be absolutely anything that's causing you pain. Yeah. And then we talked about this last time too, like, oh, that trauma is more than that trauma. It's how you view it. Yeah. Like, obviously you could rank them if you really wanted to, but it doesn't matter the way that person feels inside. Yeah. That's what matters. Right. Some person can be okay with their father never telling them that they love them. Especially in the Italian household, didn't happen a lot. They could be okay with it. Another kid could have depression over it because they didn't get that love or reassurance or all those kind of things growing up, because our parents didn't know any better. That's how they were raised. But I do see, like, for me anyways, I'm breaking that cycle, like with my son, with our son. Like, it's time to get away from those values, because I need to change that.
Yeah. Well, and like you were saying a minute ago about the healing and self-loving, this takes time. This takes years for people. For a lot of people, this is what we need. Well, for me and you and everybody, this is what we need to do for the rest of our lives, right? It's the journey. We're always building on the next step, right? And like you said too, you may have a good run too of 7 or 8 days sometimes, and then that 8th day, you're like, shit, now I feel a bag of shit. But that's okay. That 9th day, I'm gonna get back again, and you still made your progress. But absolutely, when you said that it takes time to learn, it's not only takes time because it's a complicated thing, but it is complicated. But it takes time just because you have to do a lot of those good things, right? Like saying you love yourself, and actually loving yourself. It's practice of doing that over and over again to make those things really, really impactful. Because I mean, anytime we're trying to improve ourselves, sometimes we even, at the beginning, even have to lie to yourself. I don't know if this makes sense to anybody, but sometimes you almost have to lie to yourself and say, geez, okay, well, I don't believe I'm going to do it, but I'm going to tell myself I'm going to do it today. I'm going to get up there. I feel like shit, but I'm just going to do it, or even if you're terrified, and you know what I mean by that? Like, sometimes you got to fake it until you make it, but then that's all part of that process. So I totally get that.
And sometimes, like, with the gym, like, I don't want to go, but I say to myself, go to the gym and have a shitty workout, and you will feel a lot better than you feel right now. And you know what happens usually? I go to the gym and I have one of my best workouts. And it happens. Like, I still don't remember a time where I said, let's go have a shitty workout, we're doing something, and then we'll come home. And I don't remember a time where I've had a shitty workout.
Right?
It's just, but before I wouldn't be going to the gym anyways, because that it just wasn't possible in my mind. But you just gotta get out.
Yeah.
Like there were so many times where I was in a cycle before. This was prior to this year, where I would work out for 3 months, and I would start, like they say, the first month you work out, you'll notice differences. The second month, people you're close to will notice differences, and then the third month, when you complete that, just total strangers could notice that you do stuff.
Okay.
But after that third month, I would usually find one reason, like I'd skip a day or something like that, and then I'd quit.
Oh, wow.
The thought for me, like I've actually sat in the parking lot and looked at that door, and that door was like some sort of fortress that I could not penetrate, and I would drive away. But if I could just get there one day, and I'd usually pump myself up, whatever, walk through that door, I'm hooked again.
That's half the battle, right? More than half the battle.
100%.
Yeah.
More. Because once I got there that first time, and because I knew what I was doing, it wasn't like I didn't know what I was doing at the gym. I just could not get in that door. Like I felt anxious. I felt, I don't even know if worthy of it, but it was all these emotions, and I couldn't get there. And then how do you think I felt that day, where I was sitting in the parking lot, almost right there, ready to go, and I went home? Yeah. Well, I think I went into a little bit of a tailspin, right? Like I drove all the way there. But why that happens?
You feel guilty, right?
100%. Why that happens, I honestly don't know.
I experienced that.
I just don't know. But now it's been, besides lockdowns, like other than rest days, it's just been every day.
That's good.
And that's the thing. I had a little bit of problem with the lockdowns and stuff too, because they don't consider the gym an essential. Like even if they told me you can't take your mask off, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I would have still been there. Like you're allowed to take, you go to your area, once you're working out, you could take your mask off. If you told me I had to wear a mask, if you told me I had to wear a certain kind of mask, I would have went and bought that mask. The gym is more than just guys, trying to get big arms and stuff. A lot of the people in there are doing this for mental health. And I'm one of those guys. Don't get me wrong. I want to look good as well, but I'm in there to make my mind right, because I always feel better after a workout. I'm proud of myself. I've released a lot of anger if I'm having a bad day, all those kind of things, right? And it's one of those things you just, like, I never understood the making of the bed, like as a kid, right? Like I'm going to get in it tonight.
Yeah.
And then I watched an admiral one time. He was speaking at a university, and he said, that's the first thing you're going to do for your day. And then you're going to build off that. And then you're going to have breakfast. And then you're going to go to your job. And then you don't start your day off shitty by just leaving your bed or having to rush out of your bed. Like some people hit snooze, snooze, snooze. Yeah. And he explained that. And then I think only like even my son, he makes his bed every day. He probably curses us every time he does, because he's probably like, I'm just going to get back in here if I close my door. Totally get it. Yeah. He's said it once, and I said, you'll understand later. Just make your bed.
Yeah.
But just little things like that.
Sure. Yeah,
and when I was struggling, when I am struggling, that little bit of information gets lost, and I don't think about the admiral talking. I don't think about that guy, or like I got huge into David Goggins. Oh, awesome. What happened was, like, usually I'd wake up in the morning, I'd have coffee, study for real estate, and then for lunch I would make my lunch and then grab YouTube and just get real estate out of my mind for a while, and just watch something on YouTube while I was eating. And I came across David Goggins, and I fell in love with this guy. I know. Because he was me, right? Like not the athlete and stuff, but he talked like I talk. He talked to me like I wanted to be talked to. Some guys need to be, I don't know if coddled's a proper term, but talk too nicely and stuff like that. I don't want that. Yeah. I want to be motivated, and I'm motivated by, whether it be swearing or yelling or in a proper context, but that, and I was just like, oh my God, this guy is incredible.
It's like the switch on too. Like when I heard him talking, I heard him telling the story about it. It's like, I heard him. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, this guy went through hell. He knows what it's like now. And everybody's story, a little bit of everybody's life can relate to a little bit of him, right? We've all been in a dark place. We've all been in a place where we're in worse shape than we've ever been in. And then we all have the opportunity to get back to that again. And what a crazy success story too. Oh, that feels me just knowing he's like, who's gonna carry the fucking boat or whatever he says, it's like gotta be ready, right?
Yeah. Like still the only guy to do what was that 3 times? Hell Week 3 times, and he couldn't swim.
Yeah.
And just I could relate. We don't have the same story, and I won't get into it, but I can relate.
Yeah.
And to see somebody like that, and to see him go from where he was to where he is now, and he's still not satisfied. That man will never be satisfied.
Yeah.
Until they're putting dirt over his grave, that guy will not be satisfied. Like there was a point, like I bought his book. I watched every clip, I believe every clip on YouTube. Cam Haines is another good guy. It's his buddy. Another good one. But like nobody has spoken to me like that. Like there would be no, like half the time I wouldn't even be eating. I'd just be watching. I was just like, oh my God.
He's captivating. I know he locks you in, and because he speaks to a point of all of us, I think, right? To a point of truth within each of us. That's like that little boy, right? Or that young man or that adult that has things unresolved or just, needs that love. Really, we need to give ourselves that love to resolve this issue or whatever, to give ourselves a little more confidence. Sometimes we just need to believe in ourselves. Like so many people, Ben, I mean, you can relate. So many people grew up and in the same similar ways that we did, and like, shit, they never had much confidence. Well, you can't really blame it on your parents, but sometimes you can, right? Sometimes you just blame it on the culture. Sometimes you blame it on just the idea that no one was taught how to parent. But in the reality is like once you tap into a little bit of this of yourselves, once you learn a little bit of this, and you see other like role models like Goggins, it's just it's in us to share it, right? And to say, my God, look what I found. And that's kind of the essence behind Fatso Radio, right? And kind of the genesis behind Fatso Radio is like, holy shit, look what I found, right? And look what take that old name that I was called and take the idea that helped me lose weight. I kind of throw it together, and that's whatever. But it's the idea that like showing us that like we can do it. We can just dig deep, right? And it's not just like the old dig deep of just just pull up your socks and run for the hell of it. It's like giving people tricks and give people not tips and tricks, but tips and actual philosophies to say like mental exercises to say write a list, do some things and stuff like that. So yeah, I think motivation guys like him are amazing. And we need more guys like him, right?
And he's not for everybody.
No.
Like I can understand him offending some people. Like one guy said to him, "Why do you swear so much?"
Yeah.
And he said, "That's because who I am." And I believe he was talking to Rogan at this time. And he said, "Why am I going to change who I am for that guy just to make it PG or whatever?" I'm not. What I like about him, what I love about him most, I believe David Goggins, the guy you see on television, is exactly the David Goggins at home, running, doing whatever. Like there are certain guys, like they speak, but do they really do this? Like on like Matt Kahn is one guy that my wife loves, and I do believe he's 100% real. But is there money as motivation? Is there? Matt Kahn's not, but Goggins don't care.
For sure.
Like you don't care.
Some guys you wonder when the lights are turned off, right? The camera's turned off. What are they like? And then that guy gives it. He gives no matter who's watching, and that's that's so admirable. Or it's so like it's something to look up to, right? It's awesome, and it's infectious too. And I was listening to that episode with him and Rogan too, and they got into it. He's like, I'm gonna change who I am. You know what I mean? Like I'm helping all these people. By the way, I say and that's the thing. If you're your true self, and this probably plays out in any role, any business, whether it's real estate, restaurant business, or anything. If you're your true self, then that's it. Love you or hate you, but you're your true self. Like you can only love somebody for being their true self. I mean, it might not be your flavor of person, but at least they're their true self, right?
And that's what I'm going to bring into real estate.
Yeah.
Like that's who I'm going to be. And I can't make everybody happy, but I have a feeling that a lot of it, like success is for me in real estate. Number one, I think I've already done it because I've shown our son that you can change your life path at any point. 46 years old, really good job at the plant for Sault Ste. Marie, all that kind of stuff. I said, F it,
Yeah.
I'm going this way. And I did a huge pivot without any job. Like people have left the Wilma Steel for, the lottery or all this kind of stuff. That's kind of like a lateral move. Like I just said, no, I need to make myself right. And I'm going to figure this out. And then we're going to, then we'll do real estate. I've showed him that. So success for me, do I want to be busy? Do I want to make money? 100%, but I'm going to do it the right way. And that's the only way. Success might be, half or a quarter of what the other real estate agents are making. If I'm okay with it, that's okay. This is not a money thing. I'm going to approach this the correct way, truthful, honestly, and that's all I'm going to do. It's exactly what he does in a different way. You can't really apply it to real estate, especially the way he does it.
Being true, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to be myself and not get myself into certain situations. He's been an absolute. Did you read his book?
On audio, yeah, awesome.
They say that's even better because there's the commentary and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like even my wife read it after I did, and but yeah, huge part of my. I found him when I really needed somebody, and I wasn't going to get it through a therapist. I wasn't going to get it like a Matt Kahn type where he's a little more soft and stuff, and my wife loves him. I'm not putting him down. It just I needed David Goggins when David Goggins came into my life, and it was perfect.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because I found David Goggins after I lost 100 pounds. After I lost that, and I said, well, I'm going to challenge myself. And listening to David Goggins actually made me start to run. Same idea as you. It's funny enough because I was never run. I mean, I was offensive lineman, right? The last thing I want to do is run. So all those offensive linemen out there can understand. So then, I'm losing a bunch of weight. I'm like, I can do something. I'm biking a lot last summer and all that stuff. So I decided I was going to start running. And yeah, I hated it, right? I didn't do very well. And I ran, maybe 3 or 5 kilometers, I think was my biggest at one point. But it was a guy like Goggins got me to run 5 kilometers. That's like me running a marathon. So like it's just amazing what it can do. And it takes time. I started with running for a minute and then walking and then the baby steps kind of thing, right? But it's funny, like anybody when you say how true he is and how true to himself he is, it seems like anybody who's ever gotten truly successful and truly happy in their success wasn't themselves. They weren't selling out. They weren't, because you can make money selling out, that everybody knows that, right? And it's funny, and not exactly the same way, but even something as simple as my podcast. I have a podcast every Friday night, or it's 110 episodes now, right? I don't pitch anything. I'm not here standing up with products and buy this and buy that. And you can, right? And maybe I should, but it doesn't matter with whatever I'm doing, and it may take me 10 years of doing this to make $1, but it doesn't matter because it's just the way I'm doing it, right? And if you can sleep at night, that's the key too. You can't sell our soul to the devil and expect to be praised by God, right?
No. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And there's people doing that, and I can't believe it. Like some of the stuff, like I'm not going to get into it, but some of the stuff is sad and disgusting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people,
what people will do for money. Mm-hmm. It's just I can't believe it. But and this is like not even the new me or whatever. Like even the old me would be like, what the is going on? And you can't treat people like this. Like just disgusting. But they maybe they can sleep at night. I don't know, but at some point they're gonna have to pay for those.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think too, like we say too, it's common that people in their 40s or in their 30s change careers, change things. Their midlife crisis, quote unquote. A lot of people feel like they're having. I feel like I've gone through it sometimes, but I think the reason why it is so common is because it takes years to figure this shit out, right? We're just being honest. This is hard shit to figure out, and it's and only when you really, like you said earlier, we were saying even last episodes, like when you really surrender and you realize that you don't know anything, and you admit to yourself in the universe you don't know anything, is when you start learning, and it's like there's so much to learn, and but it's exciting too because with learning these new experiences and you meet new people and all this stuff. And it's amazing how this journey through life. So where is it taking us next, right? It's like real estate for you, right? It's coming up. Probably, I guess it's probably what's the season like now, or what's the temperature like for buying houses? Is now a time to buy and sell?
It's been crazy for basically a year.
Wow.
It's been, yeah, usually like January, February,
Yeah.
and then everybody starts getting the itch in spring, which would be right now.
Yeah.
January, February was nuts. Like there's been no slowdown.
Yeah,
Just
the market we're in, right?
I think some of it, like a lot of people stayed in their house for a long time and they realized they don't really like their house that much. Because if people are on the go and stuff, right, working, and on the weekend you might be going to camp, or you take the job away, let's just say for 5 days, you're sitting around looking and you're like, you know what? Or maybe COVID caused change in people too, right? Like they just sat there and said, we were comfortable in our house, but now we want something different, or we're going to take that chance, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of things, and that could be happening too, where people, I think a lot of people just got really comfortable, and that's what happened to me. Like I got really comfortable in my situation. I was miserable. So I 18 years later, I was, still working in it between Oklahoma Tubes and Oklahoma Steel. Like that 18 years, I was doing something I hated.
Yeah.
Like that's how you can get real comfortable in something. And some guys do it for 35 years, 40 years. Some guys like it. I really respect those guys.
Yeah.
But some guys really hate it for that their whole career, and they're looking forward to retirement and stuff like that. And I was one of those guys.
Yeah.
But like now, even with the pivot of real estate, like some people say, well, you gave up the retirement and you like all that kind of stuff. And I did. And I gave up healthcare. I did. But I could also, like now I'm into cryptocurrency, and I've been in cryptocurrency for 3 years, but that's another revenue stream for me. Sure. And if I've got my money in a couple small ones, if they ever hit, there's my retirement. Like if you're doing things right and you're on the right path, like the thing that I see a lot now, the time, like when it's 333, 444, 555, they always talk about that being you're usually on the right path when you start noticing that. I've never in the past year, I've never noticed time, and it's not like I'm looking at the time. It's just a lot of 11:11, 12:12, all that kind of shit. And there's like meanings behind it. I don't really read into the meanings. I just know when you're finding that, I feel like you're on the right path, and the universe is giving you something to say, hey, just keep going. And so many times I'd be, getting ready for that exam. I don't think I studied enough. I don't think I did enough. And you just kind of peek over at the clock, and it's just like 3:33. And I'm just like, okay, thank you.
That's
like it's weird. And now I've got my son, like our son, saying he's like 333, make a wish, 444, make a wish, and we're just doing that all the time. But just implanting stuff in his mind, right? Like just notice things, appreciate things, and like the other full moon, we this is all my wife, and I appreciate it so much from her. Like she got us to write down things we want to get rid of. Totally private. We told him we're not going to see it. Write it down on a piece of paper. Went outside on the porch. It was a beautiful full moon. Burnt them, and then they were going up. Just doing stuff like that. Like it's such a. And then I look at his Snapchat. He put a snap out, and he's got a picture of the moon, and it says something to the effect of "time to forgive." And this is a 12-year-old kid, right? So just doing little things like that. Like I'm not saying you need to do yoga with them. You need to meditate with them. You need just small little things like that. Yeah. And it took us, I don't know, 15 minutes. I would have never thought of that. Wow. And thankfully my wife is in tune to stuff like that. But yeah, just stuff like that.
It reminds me how amazing kids are. Like I'm reminded every day, my 2 daughters as well. Like they'll say things, I'm like, man, how insightful the kids can be sometimes, right? And it's funny because, well, they're listening, man. They're listening to us, right? They're absorbing all the stuff we're saying, the good and the bad, of course. But they're listening to us, and they're so smart. And that's why I don't like, I think that, and I'm sure you agree, but that's why we should share these wonderful things with our children. When we're talking about spirituality, we're talking about philosophy, we're talking about the big picture stuff in life. Yes, tell your kids about that stuff, right? The big questions in life, why are we here? They're going to ask them when they're later, when they're older anyway. And it's almost like the sooner you start, right, investigating, maybe they'll be ahead of the game a little bit more than we are. I don't know, but
I agree 100%. Like not me and you, but people treat their kids too much like kids. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that you can discuss with them, and I'm not talking about like sex and drugs and all that, like spiritual stuff
yeah,
and real life answers or questions because they have the questions. It's not like they don't have these questions or they aren't thinking about these questions. They are.
yeah.
So wouldn't you rather they hear it from you, a trusted source, rather than their friends or the older kids at school, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, on the internet, some more worse, like YouTube.
Even worse, yeah, because they're all connected now. You can try and contain that internet. A lot of them know more than I do. Like my son, he knows probably more than I do with it. So they'll find ways around it. And now they all have their phone and all this kind of stuff. And I wasn't too thrilled about that, but it's going to happen. I said high school, and then he got one a little bit early, but it was inevitable. We monitored the time and stuff like that, but and he's respectful of it. So it's the new age, and they're getting one.
Exactly.
They're going to be connected.
Exactly. And I think too, like one of the good things, one of the surprising things that I'm learning about the young generation, my kids, your kids' age group, is that although they're still super technical, they're very interested in the spiritual, right? They're very interested in what we would consider new spiritual, right? Our generation, we're in our 40s, right? My idea of spiritual when I was a kid was, well, you're Catholic or you're not or whatever, right? But the new sense, or not the new, at least new to me and probably new to you as well, but it's just the idea that you don't have to define your spirituality anymore. It's about connection. It's about whatever you feel, and it's about love and goodness, essentially, right? And however you need to translate it. So I love it when I see my girls or any just kids, just reaching out and showing that connection to without prompting. When your kids do that, you make you so proud of them. Holy shit, they're learning, right? It's nice to see that the kids are doing it, and maybe it's giving us feedback that hey, maybe we're doing a good job as a dad, right?
And I find they're watching more than they're listening.
Oh yeah.
And I was not doing my job as a parent a while ago. You know what I mean? Like it just what he was seeing or feeling, and did I tell him I love him 100%? Did I tell him I'm proud of him 100%? But now he's seeing things that are totally different. Like it's just different when like you can tell, like that, my dad did a lot of that, talking to you. I wasn't listening. Like I was just looking at him and I'm thinking about the ball game I got to play tonight, or the girl that I'm crushing on in grade 6, you know what I mean? That kind of shit.
Yeah.
I wasn't listening to him because those are adult problems. Those are adult things. I'll worry about that later. Showing them, I think is everything, because you're not preaching to them. And half the time I don't even know he's looking, but he's looking.
Oh, yeah.
And because there's some things that he says and does, or sometimes I'll see something that he's doing and I'll be like, okay, he's watching. And that's how they're going to learn, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, they're watching us, they're watching the internet, they're watching their friends, and we can be the good role models, right? The good source, and we are the good source in their life, and the good source of love and support. So it's great. It's they're our little feedback, speakers, and see how we're doing and kind of how we're doing in life, and it's great because we get to see them and watch them grow, and it's just I mean we don't have to say it, but I love being a dad. I'm sure you love being a dad too. It's the greatest thing on earth. And I guess that's what we need to focus on, right? Just kind of keep it going, keep banging our drum, keep marching. There's no end game. Like that's the thing. I tell people, even when people talk about weight loss and all this stuff, like your goal, you don't really have a goal. You may have a goal where you're gonna maybe loosen the reins a bit, but the goal is just longevity, right? Keep it going. I know for weight loss and exercise and everything, every aspect, especially for me, the mental health idea is routine is so big, right? Like, oh my God, I could write 10 books on how important routine has been to my life. And anytime I've ever felt bad, or anytime I've ever been in a bit of a dumpster, it's because I was off my routine, right? Or off some sort of routine, whether it was my job, my fault, or somebody else's fault. But so it just speaks to how important it is to also teach our kids. And then I see it in them too. When they're on routine, they're great too. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It was funny because I had to do, I didn't have to do, I did Exit has like a personality profile that they get from an outsource something on the internet, right? And ask you a bunch of questions, and they just tells you what type of personality you are, things you can work on, things that they know you're good at, things like that. And mine was heavy on kind of trying to break the routine. Like you can't, especially being a real estate agent, like you could try and set up your day.
Yeah.
But there are things that are going to happen, right? Whether it's a call from somebody, oh, I need to see this, I need this, I need all these kind of things. So I think it's preparing me now, because I'm, to say that I like a structured day is like an understatement.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to learn to break that and roll with the punches a little bit. And it might be, that gym time that I really like going. I think it's going to become, once I start working, I think it'll become early morning, just because nothing's happening then. Get it done, get it over with, and start your day with that. I think it'll be fantastic. But yeah, I need to learn how to bend a little bit and make some things. And like it was so funny because it was just a major part of this thing. But yeah.
Awesome, man. Listen, brother, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Anything you want to kind of leave everybody with? It's been great to catch up with you. It's exciting, the real estate next little while. How can we get a hold of you? Are you going to have some sort of a website?
As soon as I get my license, I'll put it on Facebook. But if anybody needs to get a hold of me, 705-987-1669 or vpaluzzi@hotmail.com. Any questions, anything you want to ask, it doesn't even have to be like, oh, I've got a house to list. You could even ask me questions about what should I do to prepare for it, all these kind of things, right? Should I paint inside? Just little tricks that won't cost you very much, but will help you in selling your house when we present it and getting a lot more for a relatively cheap price. Like there's certain things you can do to your houses that don't cost a lot, but it's that initial effect when you first walk into a house. Usually people are going to make up their mind real quick, and just getting that little bit of effect when they walk in. But yeah, I'll have it on my Facebook. I can't wait to start being able to do it. Like I've just been talking about it and just getting ready for so long, but it'll be exciting. And I appreciate you having me on here, and we'll do this again.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you again. Love you, buddy. And take care.
Love you too.
Thank everybody for watching Fatso Radio. We'll see you soon.
Let's say bye to everybody. And we'll say thanks for listening. Say thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
Fatso Radio, the really great podcast show.
So get your butt and get in your chair.
Don't eat your nails and don't pull your hair.
We'll talk about chicken or talk about steak.
We'll talk about fat, for goodness sake.
Fatso, the really great podcast show.
Fatso, our very first podcast show.